De forma inesperada te encontré. Quizás a destiempo, yo no sé. Contigo soy graduante en disimular, por ir en contra de mi voluntad, callando lo que siento. He aprendido que el tiempo te da valor. Ay, puede que me equivoque o tenga la razón. Muero por una gota, gota, gota que alborota y que desboca el corazón. Ay, gota, gota que provoca y que desata mi imaginación. Pero gota, tu gota, si tú me regalas un beso, yo te baño el cuerpo con cada nota de mis besos, los que he guardado para ti. Si tú me regalas un beso, yo te baño el cuerpo, no. Gota, gota que alborota y que desboca el corazón. Ay, gota, gota que provoca y que desata mi imaginación. Pero gota, tu gota, si tú me regalas un beso, yo te baño el cuerpo con cada nota de mis besos, los que he guardado para ti. Si tú me regalas un beso, te baño el cuerpo con cada nota de mis besos, los que he guardado para ti, mi amor. ¡Oh! Dice que y agua de lluvia que moja tu pecho, te baña el cuerpo. Sándalo, cacao y limón que trae el viento. Besos que no saben de tiempo, pero que agüita, agüita para ti en todo momento. Ay, déjate bañar gotica, gotica, mamá. Pan de piña y de azahar te arropa. Agua y lluvia. El silencio.
¿Qué? Compás 43.
Lo importante de este ensayo no es solamente que escuchemos el clic, sino que ensayemos lo que hemos hablado antes.
double cheese and bacon. As soon as I wake up, quiero comer y repetir sin extras, no makeup. Double cheese and bacon. As soon as I wake up, quiero comer y repetir sin extras, no makeup.
Te provoca desnuda estar por la sala y al caminar te miro mientras cocinas. Después de desayunar nos comemos. Pero si te digo que por este fin yo estoy para ti, luego de la tanda me tengo que ir para producir. ¿Por qué no aprovechar el momento en el que estoy para ti?
Tú eres mi plato principal, comida pa' llevar pa' que nunca nos quede mal. Aquí no hay extras, tú eres mi plato principal, comida pa' llevar pa' que nunca nos quede mal.
Pa' meterle el dulce, la crema con fresa, no se nos puede olvidar. Si no hay gasolina, te busco en el Tesla, como sea te voy a mochar. Si eres vegana, yo me puedo adaptar. Como un tomate, yo te voy a devorar.
Porque tú también te comes, si estoy hungry, mucho más. Que cualquier momento es el momento perfecto para amar. Porque tú también te comes, si estoy hungry, mucho más. Que cualquier momento es el momento perfecto para amar.
Double cheese and bacon. As soon as I wake up, quiero comer y repetir sin extras, no makeup. Double cheese and bacon. As soon as I wake up, quiero comer y repetir sin extras.
Ya no más conflé at night. He buscado y quiero más. Menos honey bread, más sal para llevar. Quiero comer, cenar, acelerar hasta el final.
Ey, ¿por qué no aprovechar el momento en el que estoy para ti? ¿Por qué no aprovechar el momento en el que estoy para ti?
Ya no más conflé at night. He buscado y quiero más. Menos honey bread, más sal para llevar. Quiero comer, cenar, acelerar hasta el final.
Double cheese and bacon. As soon as I wake up, quiero comer y repetir sin extras, no makeup. Double cheese and bacon. As soon as I wake up, quiero comer y repetir sin extras, no makeup.
Ip, a.k.a. Vaporwave, el amor es mi ley, elijo rey. Y no es que sea un fake, no. Es que no quiero llenar mi cuerpo de veneno. Así voy como globo helio, soltando mucho color por tu estéreo. Guía, bless, simple, libre. Este estilo de mundo, hip, flair, los química, yes. Universo infinito en la cabeza, los pies. Así que Lola, mento voy enfocado en mi ola. Pues como la ves, Lola, espérame en la orilla con cola. Después vamos por birras o pola. Recuerda la chola, si quiere vamos por Paola. Paola, que la magia nos diga hola. Hola.
Hola. 1926, tomándote una foto con el cel. Time Machine, yo te leen hotel. Tú y yo en el Mini Cooper. No hay falla, solo hay bloopers. Chistes inteligentes, Sheldon Cooper. Quiero que se ría, llevarla like a jumper. Sentirme entre sus brazos mientras manejo el scooter. Mis ojos como un shooter en su escote. Cansado de que reten y no me derroten. Ponme de router, transmito las señales sin los cables. Pase usted, hombre, vengo donde el hombre pasa hambre. Hablaremos en Cali de lo grande que fue Baires, esos buitres invitándome a sus bailes. Yo al Right Night de Rick and Morty, no estoy en Marte, aunque siga habitando aparte. Allá afuera no comparten este amor por los puntos y aparte.
Con mucha química los pisos. Nobody play with us. Somos la voz de la reason. Mi son. Aviso pero no freno. Y si ves que recorto luego acelero. Guay, bueno. Retumbo como un trueno. Ustedes son buenos en un mundo paralelo. Le lo que dan todo cuando le cambio el modo. Quiere que seamos ovejas en un mundo el lobo. Pero no, bobo. Somos los que repartimos musiquita a domicilio. Para los que se fueron al exilio. Para los que se quedaron y tienen el dominio de la jugada, como lo tiene Ronaldinho, muy obrigado. De costado a costado, la costa y los hermanos.
Muy obrigado.
Mami, no doy pasos en falsos, voy por la misión. Working on guerrilla radio como profesión. Demasiada disciplina pa' que lo llames don. Quise tocar la luna, no esperar el tren en la estación. Respiro, me doy un giro y vuelvo con comida para llevar tus superheroes. Lanzo piedras que después recogen como zafiros. No sé si aguanta el grindel, pero igual le lanzo un kilo. Y what up, son? Llega el chico super fresco. Traigo 1001 maneras para morir honesto. Con Silver hablándome algo de baloncesto. Y el chino creando obra maestra chas con bajo presupuesto. Mami, asómate el balcón por un segundo. Que te fecundo entre tus piernas donde me hundo. Dame caricias disfrazadas con amor profundo. Para el solitario hacedor de soles, rompedor de mundo.
Guía, bless, simple, libre. Este estilo de mundo. Guía, bless, simple, libre. Delivery fresco.
Estoy levantando la voz pa' ver cuántos lloran, ja. Si tú pierdes el tiempo, imagínate los que te asesoran, ja. Otro fake, otro rey, otras modas, ja. Otros bombos, cajas, temas, hondos, magia, ey. Cuánto show, cuánto flow, la ja, ja. Igualdad, humanidad, libertad, baja, ey. Escúchame y viaja, quieres verme baja, ey. No detengo el tiempo pero casi. Ven imposible lo que yo hago fácil. Escribo con el temple de Popovich ante un paparazzi. Y el flow de Cardelio llegando a las naciones en mototaxi. Shut up, bitch, ey. Y hasta me asombro. Hace 2 años estaba en Medellín cargando escombros. Ey, sé volar porque estuve en el fondo. Y todos tiramos la piedra pero yo nunca me escondo, ja.
Libre, este estilo de mundo. Guía, bless, simple, libre. Delivery fresco. Guía, bless, simple, libre. Este estilo de mundo. Guía, bless, simple, libre. Delivery fresco.
Está mi turno, yo quiero rapear también, ya que tengo la mente conectada ya ando con los hermanos de la costa, haciendo música muy buena que te levanta la costra. Yo ando rapeando porque quiero y porque necesito, porque si no rapeo muero y no necesito ese zapato que trajiste como 30 y pico. Yo tengo el pico grande y te lo meto en el hocico.
Se me hizo temprano la sella, esperando que mande una señal. Esconde más de lo que enseña, ya, a mí me va y me viene la señal. Se me hizo temprano la sella, esperando que mande una señal. Esconde más de lo que enseña, ya, a mí me va y me viene la señal. Oh shit, de fondo jazzy, de emoji, un kamikaze. El hoy sí, se queda en casi. Cancelo el super taxi. Y la vida sigue bien con bits and beers. Otro día para reírse de Flanders. O como fresco loop para mantenerlo flawless. Del barber al barman, bonita secuencia como Birman. Van a verme, pagan la entrada y encima me brindan. Bam, bam, el día empezó mal pero ahora me siento chopán. Destapando champán, encima tráeme pan pa' la pasta 4 estaciones. Soy una empresa, más no vendo mis acciones. ¿Quieres canciones? Tome. Quiero unos rones? Tome. Me siento un Rolling Stone y al mundo lo tomé.
El día a la mitad a las 6 ya. Le dije a Frey que me iba a llegar ya. Otro que bebe más de lo que sueña. Ahora rapea, cocina la crema. Ey yo, del día a la mitad a las 6 ya. Taiko me dijo que se iba a llegar. Otro día otro tema, otra botella. Ahora rapea, cocina la crema. Llego al estudio y creo que son como las 6 p.m. Después de eso mi tiempo transcurre en BPMs. No contesto ni que llamen pa' pagar lo que deben. Shining in the studio, perra, por mí el mundo que se queme. El tiempo pasa, las letras quedan ya. Desde mi casa pa' tu vereda ya. Pa' toda esa plaza, pa' toda esa breda que saben llegar al lugar en donde el alma queda ya. El 666 sonando rompe el altavoz. De 6 a 6 la cena se nos olvidó. Dime si no valió la pena el sacrificio del 8º piso negro y no es porque lo diga yo. El 666 sonando rompe el altavoz. De 6 a 6 la cena se nos olvidó. Dime si no valió la pena el sacrificio del 8º piso negro y no es porque lo diga yo.
Se me hizo temprano la sella, esperando que mande una seña. Esconde más de lo que enseña, ya, a mí me va y me viene la señal.
Por supuesto, te quiero, por supuesto, pasan todos, por supuesto, y otros quieren mi puesto, por supuesto, te quiero, por supuesto, están todos en su puesto, y otros piden presupuesto, por supuesto, ellos creen saber a dónde voy y solo ven mi humo. Todo ese cuento de quién es mejor cantando me lo fumo. Ellos creen saber a dónde voy y solo ven mi humo. Todo ese cuento de quién es mejor cantando me lo fumo.
Yeah. Suena que bello, música pela al mí para el cuello. Que esto es por nosotros, no por ellos. De la playa es el sello y qué sé yo. Si pa' mí yo, mami, hoy te muerdo esa bala si jalas el gatillo. Que me llevo tus ganas colgadas de los colmillos. Que si el sol sale es porque a ti te queda el amarillo. Chico listo, rey sencillo. Negra, yo, solo ante tu vientre me arrodillo. Historias épicas de un servite marítimo. La última bitácora de un náufrago legítimo. Miran con su catalejo y estamos lejísimos. Yeah, un coño es su madre, el medio artístico. Fuck that.
Ellos creen saber a dónde voy y solo ven mi humo. Todo ese cuento de quién es mejor cantando me lo fumo. Ellos creen saber a dónde voy y solo ven mi humo. Todo
Lo suelto en un free, suena bonito. Mis cartas explotan como Gambito. Te mato de risa como Jaimito. Llega a tu planeta en mi meteorito. Lo suelto en un free, suena bonito. Mis cartas explotan como Gambito. Te mato de risa como Jaimito. Llegué a tu planeta en mi meteorito. Se acabó la gira así de pasajera. Las birras y espinas, bellas consejeras. Se acabó la gira así de pasajera. Menos gente pa' jugo y más gente sincera.
Si no tienes fe, es que ni yo te perdono. Yo que con un beso me ilusiono. Yo no sé de canto ni de tono, pero me decanto y te detono. Me llevo en su casco y en su fono. Baila cuando empuño el micrófono. Yo también cargué mi agua con todo. Mírame, ahora brilla hasta mi lodo. Cuida que por ahí te sale el lobo. Habla, ¿quieres tu perro con todo? Mami, me lo gano y yo no robo. Si me guardo es que no quiero estar en todo.
Lo suelto en un free, suena bonito. Mis cartas explotan como Gambito. Te mato de risa como Jaimito. Llega a tu planeta en mi meteorito. Lo suelto en un free, suena bonito. Mis cartas explotan como Gambito. Te mato de risa como Jaimito. Llegué a tu planeta en mi meteorito. Yo soy terco, no soy Tauro. Veo estrellas, no centauros. Un laberinto sin un fauno. Tu favorito como el Magnum. Magnum, no Alejandro, no hables, hazlo. Esto es Eslo sin vaquia. No creo en mapas ni en la patria. Traje sin hedia. Una estupidez tras otra que contagia. Estoy tejiendo otra estrategia pa' que más niños me crean en la magia. Quieren atraparme como Lugia. Vuelvo y digo sí como Bolivia. Hazte mi princesa de Genovia. Juguemos a hacer lluvia bajo lluvia. Suelto en un free, suena bonito. Mis cartas explotan como Gambito. Te mato de risa como Jaimito. Llegué a tu planeta en mi meteorito. Lo suelto en un free, suena bonito. Mis cartas explotan como Gambito. Te mato de risa como Jaimito. Llegué a tu planeta en mi meteorito. Se acabó la gira así de pasajera. Las birras y espinas, bellas consejeras. Se acabó la gira así de pasajera. Menos gente pa' jugo y más gente sincera. A falta de tu pista ya no subo ni a la Vespa. Una parte me avispa y la otra se pregunta ¿qué le pasa a Vesta? Ahora sí que te perdí de vista luego de subirte a esa furgoneta. Yo rey de los gorgonitas, perdiendo batallas como esta, sin respuesta. Porque ya no importa, la última vuelta fuera de órbita, inmune a tu kriptonita. Me queda tu presencia anecdótica, qué peligro, vivir sin peligros. Tocará practicar, basta de procrastinar por castigar nuestras versiones. Te invito al cine, autocanciones se hacen solas por mil razones. Inevitable recordar en ocasiones, bajo efectos de alcoholes y otros vapores. Y va por ahí, y va por wave, y que lo fai, y no se quema. Me dio la seca, también la zika. Me pone azúcar, no estamos cerca, vuelvo a soñar. Y va por ahí, y va por waves, y que lo fai, y no se quema. Me dio la seca, también la zika. Me pone azúcar, no estamos cerca, vuelvo a soñar.
Me tocó perder, no me gusta este juego. Los viejos no hacen milagros y hay santos nuevos. Me dediqué a perderte y aunque no lo niego, me pone de mal humor no tenerte conmigo. Hoy me tocó perder, no me gusta este juego. Los viejos no hacen milagros y hay santos nuevos. Me dediqué a perder. cosas de más la tetera. Por si llegas y no encuentras ni la cafetera. De la rechera moví todo directo a la papelera. Las fotos, los videos, los te quiero y tu franela. Yo solo quiero que te vaya mal, que te pise un tren, que vuelvas a mí aunque pensándolo bien. No te quiero más, yo solo quiero que te vaya mal, que te pise un tren, que vuelvas a mí aunque pensándolo bien. Ya no quiero estar sin ti.
Ey, me siento Drake, desde que no te tengo aquí, baby. Ok, pa' que quede clay. Otra como tú me la saco el conflay. Me dejaste fly, te batí de flake. Que te piso el tren y te llevo el rain. Bitch, don't kill my vibe, espera. Esta es mi cara, ¿te suena? El que te subía sin las escaleras rascado. Te dije te amaba y ni te gustaba que beba. No joda, eleva, fuera. Quiero que vuelvas, pero como la primera. Con comida pa' llevar y una sonrisa vela.
Yo solo quiero que te vaya mal, que te pise un tren, que vuelvas a mí aunque pensándolo bien. No te quiero más, yo solo quiero que te vaya mal, que te pise un tren, que vuelvas a mí aunque pensándolo bien. Ya no quiero estar sin ti.
Es que me gusta como quema la comida. Yo odiaría verte con ese pendejo toda tu vida. Aunque pensándolo bien, no estaba ni desabrida. Y no está mal que esté llegando cuando voy de ida.
Yo solo quiero que te vaya mal, que te pise un tren, que vuelvas a mí aunque pensándolo bien. No te quiero más, yo solo quiero que te vaya mal, que te pise un tren, que vuelvas a mí aunque pensándolo bien. Ya no quiero estar sin ti.
Lo mismo Tame Impala, da igual si gala. Si la música es buena, cala. Lo mismo Tame Impala, da igual si gala. Si la música es buena, cala. Lo mismo Tame Impala, da igual si gala. Si la música es buena, cala. Lo mismo Tame Impala, da igual si gala. Si la música es buena, cala.
Nena, el corcho golpea el techo en mi despacho. Tengo como a Dios agarrado por los cachos. No me tiré la mala vibra pa' que no la quecho. Ya ni borracho me sale un ritmo que esté mal hecho. Ellos con el amor de mi primer ensayo. Yo, los frutos rinden porque es verde el tallo. Las dosis altas pero no llevo ni un desmayo. Mis manos la playa entre otras cosas donde crecen callos. Yo no, caballo, agarra tu teto me estrello. Que me salen blancas o me salen negras, pero no le sale a ellos como ninguno, así entrenan los número uno. Un milagro entre tantos muchachos por ahí que se paran sin un desayuno.
Lo mismo Tame Impala, da igual si gala. Si la música es buena, cala. Lo mismo Tame Impala, da igual si gala. Si la música es buena, cala. Y es que estuve buscando no perderme yo, pa' no irme de la fiesta sin mi cotillón. Mira el tema ya llegó al millón, pero lo digo desde el mismo sillón. La música la sé yo, soy de verdad tocar. Esto no es plastilina ni cartón, muñequitos de maqueta o cartoons, ni Copton ni Steve y la costa. Me costó media vida y parte de otra. Trota conmigo junto a las olas, que nos persiga tu mascota, el sol nos dé la hora. Órale, qué colores, qué te, qué lo cuá, tu por qué, mi por tuá, yeah. Lo mismo Tame Impala, da igual si gala. Si la música es buena, cala. Lo mismo Tame Impala, da igual si gala. Si la música es buena, sana.
Sácale negra que aquí no nos ven. Si es que alguien preguntan por ti, diles que te tengo de rehén. Ya, las 5:40 ya sé, yo tampoco contesto el DM. Sentado borracho en la esquina como el pensador de Rodin. Yeah, mami, ni que nos raden, que hoy me como hasta lo que no me den. Ves el milagro y te apena el amén. Son unas Barbie buscando su Ken. Ojo chino, chili en estado zen. 8 ojos super spider churiken. Sudó la casaca, así que saca de 100 pa' la vaca caña y pa' los míos de bien. Amén, porque saben bien, ya saben quién. Si me caigo, les caigo bien. Les caigo bien, ya la cagué, ya la borré. Ya la borré, no tengo nada que perder. Estoy borro y te quiero ver.
Paso por el aro, ponen cono y no me paro. Salgo chillin', Little Dragon me llamaron. Quieren que trabaje, doble turno y mal pagado. Regalo musiquita que a ellos les sale caro. Si quieren me escuchan un rato, sé que mi arte es discreto. Este mundo bien ingrato, jugando con los efectos. Pa' hacerlo más colorido, pa' que lo bailen los gatos. Mucho cariño en tu oído, vamos a comerte otro plato. Sabes bien, ya saben quién. Si me caigo, les caigo bien. Les caigo bien, ya la cagué, ya la borré. Ya la borré, no tengo nada que perder. No me importa, te quiero ver. Sabes bien, ya saben quién. Si me caigo, les caigo bien. Les caigo bien, ya la cagué, ya la borré. Ya la borré, no tengo nada que perder. No me importa, te quiero ver.
Hoy me dieron 2 raciones de odio y lo siento, pero yo no paro. Tendrán que aguantarme solitos, jalarse los pelos. Mami, me escuchas, me dicen que llega hasta el cielo este sonido nuevo. Es cierto, yo no soy rapero. Me dice que le sabía cloro. Pasó por mi casa mintiendo y la boca le lavo. Como Cristo te incruste la clavo. Este poco equivocado y nosotros dando bocado. Mini patacón, maíz tostado. Era que se han olvidado quienes desde un sitio botado han defendido. Se escucha el talento que está en todos lados. Y quiero celebrar comida pa' llevar. Delivery, yo le del 1 al 33. Con Ronnie, con Bosé. El juego, el parque, el clan. Estar vivo a pesar de que el mundo nos eche mierda.
Sabes bien, ya saben quién. Si me caigo, les caigo bien. Les caigo bien, ya la cagué, ya la borré. Ya la borré, no tengo nada que perder. No me importa, te quiero ver. Sabes bien, ya saben quién. Si me caigo, les caigo bien. Les caigo bien, ya la cagué, ya la borré. Ya la borré, no tengo nada que perder. No me importa, te quiero ver.
Hey yo, sos lacra. Yeah, criminals minds on the mic, traveling together, touching the sky. Yo tan katana japonesa y tú tan one side. Huele a mi chandino, callejonero y spray. Yeah. Todo comenzó frente a la playa. Reconocerme a mí para reconocer mis fallas. Trascender cuando la muerte muestre su guadaña. La neblina en forma de dragón que cruza la montaña. Hey yo, mami, traje lo que me pediste. Unifico la nación en un beat de la lacra triste. Tomo lo que soy y agradezco lo que me diste. Ahora juega la vivo, más nigga que llevo en viste. Yeah.
Poco de vitamina D me recargo con verte. Aparte de los cárteles, aunque lleve el S de esos crímenes. La rima gratiné, te la entrego a las 3. Cuando empezaba el matiné y esa niña era mi fanfater. Me enfadé y me costó la fe. Luego la retomé y ya estoy retomando cheves en DF. Defendí mis peces, mi costa, mi alopecia. Son 12 años porcia, conquisté como Persia. En la persiana supe que la luz te convertía en Artemisa. Pasaste de Medusa a Mona Lisa.
Hice adicto a tus besos, buscando entre las nubes besos. Cada que llamo y no regreso, Recuerda que pecamos juntos más de una vez. Me hice adicto a tus besos, buscando entre las nubes besos. Cada que llamo y no regreso. Recuerda que pecamos juntos más de una vez. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cuando tú me ves así, curas esta gran depresión. Siento gran depresión, me siento en el sillón. Si yo solo te beso a ti y a la weed, tengo mi clave privada como Valentín. No me pesa pasar solo otro San Valentín. Yo con mis Valentines como Casey y una guama bien helada pa' pasarla amazing. Crecí esquivando las balas. Soy más de Malcolm McCormick que de Christopher Wallace. Me da igual si no hay caídas o New Balance. Yo prefiero estar contigo y un porrito en la mañana.
A tus besos, buscando entre las nubes besos. Cada que llamo y no regreso. Recuerda que pecamos juntos más de una vez. Me hice adicto a tus besos, buscando entre las nubes besos. Cada que llamo y no regreso. Recuerda que pecamos juntos más de una vez. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Droga, con droga, sin droga, con droga, sin droga, con droga, sin droga, con droga.
Suelta papi que no se te da, mucho chicle, poca bomba. Yo soplo y hago botella, muerde el diente, se te amea.
De oro y diamante mi sello, en la radio pero serio. Esto cada 2 milenios, cállate, dame mi premio.
Ay Dios mío, qué milagro, estamos vivos de milagro. Saluditos pa' milagro, ella sabe de lo que hablo. Comida para llevar.
No puedo creer esta vaina. Taiko de la Cruz.
Copien, yo no soy de esos flow que se calcan los mediocres. Yo no soy de esos flow que copien. Lo mío ya es por muerte, lo mío es el postre.
Yeah. Ahora medio país piensa que vi.
Para realizar mis sueños que haré, por dónde empezar, cómo realizaré tu tan lejano amor. Lo único que sé es que ya no sé quién soy, de dónde vengo ni voy. Desde que te vi, mi identidad perdí. Cabeza estás, solo tú y nadie más. Y me duele al pensar que nunca me serás de mi enamorante. Mira que día que de mí te enamores tú, voy a ser feliz y con puro amor te protegeré y será un honor dedicarme a ti, eso quiera Dios. Y el día que de mí te enamores tú, voy a ver por fin de una vez la luz y me desharé de esa soledad, de la esclavitud ese día que tú de mi amor te enamores, tú veré por fin de una vez la luz. Desde que te vi, mi identidad perdí. Mi cabeza está solo tú y nadie más. Me duele al pensar que nunca me será de mi enamorarte. Mira día que de mí te enamoré yo, voy a ser feliz y con puro amor te protegeré y será un honor dedicarme a ti, eso quiera Dios. Y el día que de mí te enamores tú, voy a ver por fin de una vez la luz y me alejaré de esta soledad, de la esclavitud. Ese día que tú de mi amor te enamores, tú veré por fin de una vez la luz. Dime, Alberto. De mí, enamórate, enamórate. Cuando te enamores de mí, el hombre más feliz seré. De mí, enamórate, enamórate. Necesito tu cariño, ay, necesito tu querer. De mí, enamórate, enamórate, enamórate. Ay, de mí, enamórate, te lo suplico yo, mujer. De mí, enamórate, enamórate, enamórate. Para realizar mi sueño, contigo siempre estaré. Chula, desde la loma, ¿cómo? Con Norberto Vélez. ¡Ya! ¡Oye, todo! La maraca se la lleva. Enamórate, enamórate. Desde que te vi a primera vista me enchulé. De mí, enamórate, enamórate. Para realizar mi sueño, dime qué tengo que hacer. De mí, enamórate, enamórate, enamórate. Dedicarme a ti, ay, para mí será un placer. De mí, enamórate, enamórate. De mí, enamórate, te necesito yo, mujer. De mí, enamórate, enamórate. Dame tu cariño, dame tu calor, te necesito aquí, mujer. De mí, enamórate, enamórate. Para realizar mi sueño, dime qué tengo que hacer. Yeah, 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 Me desespero de tanta soledad. Sé que esta noche tampoco tú vendrás. Será muy tarde si te siento llegar, cansada como siempre, sin deseos para amar. Me dices duerme, no quiero molestar y ya estoy harto de tu amabilidad. Cuando te acuestas te siento bostezar. Te juro que esta noche nunca se me olvidará. Hoy voy a darme a la fuga, cometeré una locura. Ya me cansé de esperar, me voy a escapar, me voy de aventura. Hoy voy a darme a la fuga, no pensaré en la censura. Voy a probar libertad, me voy a olvidar de todas mis dudas.
Me siento inquieto con ganas de vivir. Hay experiencias que quiero descubrir. Un beso ajeno que me vuelve a estremecer. Una explosión de fuego, una noche de placer. Hoy voy a darme a la fuga, cometeré una locura. Ya me cansé de esperar, me voy a escapar, me voy de aventura. Hoy voy a darme a la fuga, no pensar en la censura. Voy a probar libertad, me voy a olvidar de todas mis dudas. Quiero emociones desenfrenadas, un cuerpo ardiente o de madrugada, locas pasiones de esas que abrazan, alguien que me haga vivir.
Hoy voy a darme a la fuga, cometeré una locura. Voy de aventura. Voy a darme a la fuga, cometeré una locura.
Me siento inquieto, quiero vivir. Oye corazón,
Hoy voy a darme a la fuga, cometeré una locura. Y hoy será distinto. Hoy voy a darme a la fuga, cometeré una locura.
una locura, 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 locura de amor, pero contigo nada más.
Voy a darme a la fuga,
Hoy sí voy de aventura.
cometeré una locura.
Ya me cansé de esperar y por eso
Hoy voy a darme a la fuga. Quiero locas pasiones de esas que me hagan vivir. Cometeré una locura. Ya me liberé de tu amargura. Voy a darme a la fuga.
yo me voy y no me importa la censura.
Cometeré una locura.
Ya me cansé de esperar, me voy a escapar, me voy a aventurar. El agua.
Stop filled.
Yo no sé por qué razón cantarle a él, si debía aborrecerla con las fuerzas de mi corazón. Todavía no la amo totalmente, ella siempre está presente, como ahora en esta canción. Incontables son las veces que he tratado de borrarla y no he logrado arrancarla en un segundo de mi mente, porque ella sabe todo mi pasado. para entretenerme y es así.
Aún recuerdo la canción que le hice un día y en el fondo no sabía que eso era malo para mí. Poco a poco fui cayendo en un abismo, siempre me pasó lo mismo, nadie sabe lo que yo sufrí. Una víctima total de sus antojos, pero un día abrí los ojos y con rabia la arranqué de mi memoria. Poco a poco fui saliendo hacia adelante y en los brazos de otra amante pude terminar al fin con esta historia. Porque yo en el amor soy un idiota que ha sufrido 1000 derrotas, que no tengo fuerzas para defenderme, pero ella casi siempre se aprovecha. Unas veces me desprecia y otras veces lo hace para entretenerme y es así.
Todo fue así, todo fue por ella, todo fue así, todo fue por ella. Yo la quería, yo la adoraba, cuando debía de aborrecerla.
Todo fue así,
así mismo fue.
todo fue por ella.
Oye bien, yo que le entregaba el alma y el corazón, por esa razón jugó conmigo sin ver.
Todo fue así,
Te digo que así mismo
todo
fue.
fue por ella.
Ya me lo habían advertido mi amigo, pero el amor te aloca, te ciega.
Todo fue así,
Así mismo fue.
todo fue por
No, I can't take that risk. No, I can't take that risk. Not when I see what you do. When you're not thinking I'd be a damn fool? If I let you slip? Thank you. Woo!
How was it out there, man?
I mean, I killed it.
Were they a good crowd?
I warmed it up for you, bro.
Hey, by the way, did you see?
Hey, she's here. Don't worry. You got this, right?
Kill it, dude.
Hey, rope for you. Clouds for you. Make a sun and a moon and just, all right? You guys got it.
Yeah. Baby, you're my sun and moon. Girl, you're everything between. A lot of pretty faces could waste my time, but you're my dream, girl. You make flowers bloom. Girl, you make the stars collide. And I don't know what I did to get lucky like this, but it sure feels fine. 'Cause you give me love and affection. I give you all my protection. I'm trying to stay by your side till the day I die. And you give me all of your love, and I give you all of my trust. I know you'll never betray me, you'll leave my side. Oh my baby, you're my sun and moon. Girl, you're everything between. A lot of pretty faces could waste my time, but you're my dream, girl. You make flowers bloom, you make the flowers bloom. Girl, you make the stars collide. And I don't know what I did to get lucky like this, but it sure feels fine. 'Cause I see your face when I'm sleeping. I wake up grateful to breathe in the air you float through. I wrote you a lullaby, a song to sing on your pillow, swift as a swing on a willow. My sweetest words are mid-birds in your perfect sky. Oh my baby, you're my sun and moon. Girl, you're everything between. A lot of pretty faces could waste my time, but you're my dream, girl. You make flowers bloom, you make the flowers grow, you make the stars collide. And I don't know what I did to get lucky like this, but it sure feels fine. 'Cause baby, you're my sun and moon. Girl, you're everything between. A lot of pretty faces could waste my time, but you're my dream, girl. You make flowers grow, you make the flowers grow, you make the stars collide. And I don't know what I did to get lucky like this, but it sure feels fine. Oh my, oh my. Oh my. Oh my, oh my. Yeah. Oh my, oh my. Baby, you're mine. Yeah. She's a queen, the realest one anyone ever seen. And if it turns out I'm asleep, then don't wake me up from this dream. I mean, if I'm keeping it real about how we came to be, I ain't do nothing to deserve you, but I keep you by any means. Because nobody's like you, nobody can compare to that shine inside of your eyes. And that way you play with your hair, it's the way you keep it 100. I trusted you with my heart. Could've torn me to pieces, but had my back from the start. It makes me sick to imagine you without me by your side. No other person can give you half of this love I can't provide. I'm passionate about your happiness. If I need to remind you the rationale for my madness, I'm happy to tell you why. 'Cause I see what you do when you're not thinking. I'd be a damn fool if I let you slip. Yeah, if I let you slip out my grip. And I'm never trying to control you, but I can't take that risk. Not with this once in a lifetime. Sports and a prime time. I save a lifeline, right place and right time. And I'm unworthy of your treasure, but I'm working under this pressure to keep you in forever. Cause you're rock solid, definition of loyal, elegant, empathetic, and enigmatically royal. You get on my damn nerves, bring my blood to a boil, but your heart is where my home is. Your soul exists in my soil. I got deep feelings for you, I'm not afraid to show it. We've been nurturing this love we were searching for, so let's grow it. We were meant to be together forever, we both know it. If this is my chance at being your lover, I'm not gonna blow it. Cause I see what you do when you're not thinking I'd be a damn fool if I let you slip. Yeah, if I let you slip out my grip, and I'm never trying to control you, but I can't take that risk. Not with this once in a lifetime. Sports and a prime time, I save a lifeline, right place and right time. And I'm unworthy of your treasure, but I'm working under this pressure to keep you in forever. Cause I see what you do when you're not thinking I'd be a damn fool if I let you slip. Yeah, slip out my grip, and I'm never trying to control you, but I can't take that risk. Not with this, no. Yeah, no, I can't take that risk. Not when I see what you do when you're not thinking I'd be a damn fool. Cause you got me straight up hooked, fiending after your love, sense of humor and empathy, kindness, all the above. Girl, you the total package. You got every box checked, but it's the way you treat others that really got my respect. Don't get me wrong, girl, you're the bomb, and I couldn't settle for less. But it's that muscle in your chest that truly got me possessed. I got your heart inside my hand, and I'm holding a firm grip. Nobody like you even close, so I'm never gonna let you slip. Cause I see what you do when you're not thinking I'd be a damn fool if I let you slip. Yeah, slip out my grip, and I'm never trying to control you, but I can't take that risk. Not with this, no. No, I can't take that risk. Not when I see what you do when you're not thinking I'd be a damn fool if I let you slip.
Order submitted. Submitted. Order filled.
she hit me like that. Saw that thing so beautiful. She just hit my heart, oh.
Order submitted.
Full force and she got me like I be like, baby, why you so fine?
Order filled.
Gotta make you mine. So hard to find. Baby like, oh, how'd you do the thing? The way that you do it and she ain't even show nothing. She be walking around so confident, so heaven sent. I think she was meant to knock them daylight. Like, girl, you so fine. Oh, 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 oh. Yeah. Girl, you rockin' like, baby, so fine. Miss baby, girl, you knock 'em dead. She was so sublime, super fine. She was never lying, strutting in the hills or her slides. Either way, eyes on her every single day, week, year. Everyone wondering how she does it with no fear. All that confidence, was it heaven sent? Does it come within? Does it come run out? I don't know. She'll just have them running out and in. Man, they want to sin, talking deadly sin with Mrs. Lady. I don't understand why she hit them like. Girl, you knock 'em dead. Oh, oh, oh. How you do it, thing you do. Yeah, yeah. Baby, you knock 'em dead. I'm already said. Ooh, it's pretty at the end.
Un, dos, tres.
Las cosas que mi gente quiere son las cosas que siempre he querido. Una copita para brindar y otras dos para los dos que vienen contigo. Los que no me subían a internet vacilando de amigos. Ahora que nos ponen la alfombrita roja vienen conmigo. Me maten si no pueden entrar. Me muera, no les puedo fallar. Yo sin esta gente, ¿pa' qué cojones quiero pasar? Me maten si no pueden entrar. Me muera, no les puedo fallar. Yo sin esta gente, ¿pa' qué cojones quiero pasar?
la vida no pensamos que la gloria es el dinero.
Stop filled.
Pero no se
Order
equivocamos.
filled.
Nuestra gente lo primero. Y el pibe de la puerta dice que somos muchos. Hemos venido como seis Carmona, ese man con pucho. ¿Cómo? Y el pibe de la puerta dice que somos muchos. Hemos venido como seis Carmona, ese man con pucho. ¿Cómo? Me maten si no pueden entrar. Me muera no les puedo fallar. Yo sin esta gente pa' qué cojones quiero pasar. Me maten si no pueden entrar. Me muera no les puedo fallar. Yo sin esta gente pa' qué cojones quiero pasar. Vámonos, vámonos, vámonos. Me maten, me maten, me maten, me maten, me maten, me
Alegría.
Tú te has creído que por ser yo bueno puedes ir pisando por donde friego. Crees que eres el sitio donde estoy cayendo, pero con la misma que has venido te puedes ir yendo.
Porque te advierto que me he cansado, que hasta los tontos tenemos tope. Y esta vez voy a acertar aunque sea de rebote, porque te he perdonado. Pero hasta los tontos tenemos tope. Y esta vez voy a acertar aunque sea de rebote. Tú te has creído que por ser yo bueno, que puedes ir pisando por donde friego. Crees que eres el sitio donde estoy cayendo, pero con la misma que has venido te puedes ir yendo. Porque te advierto que me he cansado, que hasta los tontos tenemos tope. Y esta vez voy a acertar aunque sea de rebote, porque te he perdonado. Hasta los tontos tenemos tope. Y esta vez voy a acertar aunque sea de rebote. ¡Nos vamos! No te escucho. Ua, ua, ua. Habla mucho, a ver si te callas ya. Cuando quieras baja a verme, ya verás la que te espera. Culebra si se siente, ya meterte en la nevera.
cayendo. Con la misma que has venido te puedes ir yendo. Tú, que te has creído, que te dio bueno. Puedes ir pisando por donde friego. Crees que eres el sitio donde te cayendo. Con la misma que has venido, mira.
Desfilaba en Milán con 21 campañas de Prada y ahora duerme aquí. La miro pensando cuánto faltará para que empiece a odiar. La forma que tengo de amarla tan mal, mi manera de huir, que no puedo parar. No he olvidado el olor de la que me follé en el baño de un garito borracho en Berlín, escuchando un tecno que me hace empujarla como un animal. Música del infierno que sonará el día de mi funeral. Me acuerdo de ti. Demasiadas mujeres, 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 demasiadas mujeres. Un WhatsApp sin abrir, hablando de cosas que no dicen nada para ver si aún estás. Borracho en Miami, volando pa'l yo de vuelta en Madrid. Cuéntame cosas que no me hagan daño cuando volverás. ¿Qué horas por allí? No me puedo olvidar de la que me dijo que siempre pa' siempre estaría pa' mí. De la que decía que solo una noche y después no hubo más. De la que se fue con mis ganas de amar, mis ganas de vivir. No la he vuelto a encontrar. Demasiadas mujeres, 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 demasiadas mujeres. Demasiadas mujeres, demasiadas mujeres, demasiadas mujeres, demasiadas mujeres, demasiadas mujeres, demasiadas mujeres, demasiadas ¿Qué vas a hacer ahora, Cristian? A ver ahora.
Vaya, Cristian, lo que sabes de verdad.
¿Algo ahí?
Vamos allá.
Me dejaste de querer cuando te necesitaba, cuando más falta hacía, no me diste la espalda. Me dejaste de querer cuando menos lo esperaba, cuando más te quería, se te fueron las ganas.
Creía que era el más cabrón, pero me estoy notando el corazón. Estás apretando mucho, mami, déjalo. Si quieres te doy la razón. Yo lo único que quiero es largarme de aquí. Me da igual dónde puedes elegir. Algún día dentro de poco me voy a arrepentir de haberte confesado lo que me hace sufrir.
Tú me dejaste de querer cuando menos lo esperaba. Cuando más te quería, se te fueron las ganas.
Para ir a tu fiesta y he pasado 3 días con la misma ropa puesta, loco por ti, perdiendo apuestas. Dime en quién piensas cuando te acuestas, porque yo pienso en ti.
Son ilusiones.
Yo pienso en ti.
Son ilusiones.
Porque yo pienso en ti.
Son ilusiones.
Yo pienso en ti.
Son ilusiones.
Tú me dejaste de querer cuando te necesitaba. Cuando más falta hacía, tú me diste la espalda.
Tú me dejaste de querer cuando menos lo esperaba. Cuando más te quería, se te fueron las ganas.
Toma que toma.
Support for NPR comes from state.
Order canceled.
I saw Denzel Washington on TV the other day. He's a real good-looking man. Man, I remember when me, him, and Wesley Snipes were young back in the 80s. They still got some of their money. I look good. I ain't got nothing, but I look good. It's a good life. It's a good life. That's it. That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
They wish and they wish and they wish and they wish and they wishing on me. Yeah. I've been moving calm, don't start no trouble with me. Trying to keep it peaceful is a struggle for me. Don't pull up at 6 a.m.
Anything you guys want in the store is free, so grab whatever you guys want.
I don't wanna die for them to miss me. Yes, I see the things that they wishing on me. Hope I got some brothers that outlive me. They gon' tell the story, shit was different with me. God's plan, God's plan. I hold back, sometimes I won't. Yeah.
Order submitted.
I feel good, sometimes I don't. Like, no. I finesse down Western Road. Hey, next. Might go down to G.O.D. Yeah, wait. I go hard on Southside G. Yeah, wait. I make sure that Northside eat. And still.
Say what you say. Thank God for what's happening right now. It might not be good, but thank God. I do.
They wish wish and they wish and they wish and they wish and they wishing on me. Yeah. I've been moving calm, don't start no trouble with me. Trying to keep it peaceful is a struggle for me. Don't pull up at 6 a.m. to cuddle with me. You know how I like it when you loving on me. I don't wanna die for them to miss me. Yes, I see the things that they wishing on me. Hope I got some brothers that outlive me. They gon' tell the story, shit was different with me. God's plan, God's plan. I hold back, sometimes I won't, yeah. I feel good, sometimes I don't, hey, no. I finesse down Western Road, hey, next. Might go down to G.O.D., yeah, wait. I go hard on Southside G, yeah, wait. I make sure that Northside eat. And still, bad things. It's a lot of bad things that they wish and they wish and they wish and they wish and they wishing on me.
Yeah, that's right. Look, yeah, you got the right idea.
Bad things. It's a lot of bad things that they wish and they wish and they wish and they wish and they wishing on me. Yeah. Hey, hey. She said, do you love me? I tell her only partly. I only love my bed and my mom. I'm sorry. 50 dub, I even got it tatted on me. 81, they'll bring the crashers to the party. And you know me, turn the 02 into the 03, dawg. Without 40 Ollie, there be no me. Imagine if I never met the broskies. God's plan, God's plan. I can't do this on my own, hey, no, hey. Someone watching this shit close, yup, close. I've been me since Scarlet Road, hey, road, hey. Might go down as G.O.D., yup, wait. I go hard on Southside G, hey, wait. I make sure that Northside eat, hey. And still, bad things. It's a lot of bad things that they wishing and wishing and wishing and wishing and wishing.
I brought toys for every single kid, so all the kids get toys.
Bad things. It's a lot.
I want you guys to go on a shopping spree on me. You guys can get whatever you want.
And they wishing on me. Yeah.
What's up?
Order canceled.
And possibly 2020, I might decide for running for presidency of the United States. This is what a president is supposed to look like, okay? That's right.
I was trying to get jobs, I was trying to reach out to different workforce programs, and I can't thank you enough.
We're making a $25,000 donation to the school for incentives for the after-school program, which we're really excited about.
We're also donating $50,000 to... Trust me, we're nothing without our mothers, so thank you. You gotta make sure you take care of your mom, too, no matter what you do. That's all we got, you know? Trust me. That's my world, too, you know?
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Love.
Everyone needs a coach. It doesn't matter whether you're a basketball player, a tennis player, a gymnast, or a bridge player. My bridge coach, Sharon Osberg, says there are more pictures of the back of her head than anyone else's in the world. Sorry, Sharon. Here you go. We all need people who will give us feedback. That's how we improve. Unfortunately, there's one group of people who get almost no systematic feedback to help them do their jobs better. And these people have one of the most important jobs in the world. I'm talking about teachers. When Melinda and I learned how little useful feedback most teachers get, we were blown away. Until recently, over 98% of teachers just got one word of feedback: satisfactory. If all my bridge coach ever told me was that I was satisfactory, I would have no hope of ever getting better. How would I know who was the best? How would I know what I was doing differently? Today, districts are revamping the way they evaluate teachers, but we still give them almost no feedback that actually helps them improve their practice. Our teachers deserve better. The system we have today isn't fair to them. It's not fair to students, and it's putting America's global leadership at risk. So today I want to talk about how we can help all teachers get the tools for improvement they want and deserve. Let's start by asking, who's doing well? Well, unfortunately, there's no international ranking tables for teacher feedback systems. So I looked at the countries whose students perform well academically and looked at what they're doing to help their teachers improve. Consider the rankings for reading proficiency. The US isn't number 1. We're not even in the top 10. We're tied for 15th with Iceland and Poland. Now, out of all the places that do better than the US in reading, how many of them have a formal system for helping teachers improve? 11 out of 14. The US is tied for 15th in reading, but we're 23rd in science and 31st in math. So there's really only one area where we're near the top, and that's in failing to give our teachers the help they need to develop their skills. Let's look at the best academic performer, the province of Shanghai, China. Now, they rank number 1 across the board in reading, math, and science. And one of the keys to Shanghai's incredible success is the way they help teachers keep improving.
Submitted.
They make sure that younger teachers get a chance to watch master teachers at work. They have weekly study groups where teachers get together and talk about what's working. They even require each teacher to observe and give feedback to their colleagues. You might ask, why is a system like this so important? It's because there's so much variation in the teaching profession. Some teachers are far more effective than others. In fact, there are teachers throughout the country who are helping their students make extraordinary gains. If today's average teacher could become as good as those teachers, our students would be blowing away the rest of the world. So we need a system that helps all our teachers be as good as the best. What would that system look like? Well, to find out, our foundation has been working with 3,000 teachers in districts across the country on a project called Measures of Effective Teaching. We had observers watch videos of teachers in the classroom and rate how they did on a range of practices. For example, did they ask their students challenging questions? Did they find multiple ways to explain an idea? We also had students fill out surveys with questions like, does your teacher know when the class understands a lesson? Do you learn to correct your mistakes? And what we found is very exciting. First, the teachers who did well on these observations had far better student outcomes. So it tells us we're asking the right questions. And second, teachers in the program told us that these videos And these surveys from the students were very helpful diagnostic tools because they pointed to specific places where they can improve. I want to show you what this video component of MET looks like in action.
Good morning, everybody. Let's talk about what's going on today. To get started, we're doing a peer review day, okay, a peer review day. And our goal by the end of class is for you to be able to determine whether or not you have moves to prove in your essays. My name is Sarah Brown-Westling. I am a high school English teacher at Johnston High School in Johnston, Iowa. Turn to somebody next to you. Tell them what you think I mean when I talk about moves to prove. I think that there is a difference for teachers between the abstract of how we see our practice and then the concrete reality of it. Okay, so I would like you to please bring up your papers. I think what video offers for us is a certain degree of reality. You can't really dispute what you see on the video. And there is a lot to be learned from that, and there's a lot of ways that we can grow as a profession when we actually get to see this. I just have a flip camera and a little tripod and invested in a tiny little wide-angle lens. At the beginning of class, I just perch it in the back of the classroom. It's not a perfect shot. It doesn't catch every little thing that's going on, but I can hear the sound, I can see a lot, and I'm able to learn a lot from it. So it really has been a simple but powerful tool in my own reflection. All right, let's take a look at the long one first, okay? Once I'm finished taping, then I put it in my computer, and then I'll scan it and, take a peek at it. If I don't write things down, I don't remember them. So having the notes is part of my thinking process, and I discover what I'm seeing as I'm writing. I really have used it for my own personal growth and my own personal reflection on teaching strategy and methodology and classroom management and just all of those different facets of the classroom. I'm glad that we've actually done the process before so we can kind of compare what works, what doesn't. So I think that video exposes so much of what's intrinsic to us as teachers in ways that help us learn and help us understand and then help our broader communities understand what this complex work is really all about. I think it is a way to exemplify and illustrate things that we cannot convey in a lesson plan, things you cannot convey in a standard, things that you cannot even sometimes convey in a book of pedagogy. All righty, everybody, have a great weekend. I'll see you later.
One day, we'd like every classroom in America to look something like that. But we still have more work to do. Diagnosing areas where a teacher needs to improve is only half the battle. We also have to give them the tools they need to act on the diagnosis. If you learn that you need to improve the way you teach fractions, you should be able to watch a video of the best person in the world teaching fractions. So building this complete teacher feedback and improvement system won't be easy. For example, I know some teachers aren't immediately comfortable with the idea of a camera in the classroom. That's understandable. But our experience with MET suggests that if teachers manage the process, if they collect video in their own classrooms and they pick the lessons they want to submit, a lot of them will be eager to participate. Building the system will also require a considerable investment. Our foundation estimates that it could cost up to $5 billion. Now that's a big number, but to put it in perspective, it's less than 2% of what we spend every year on teachers' salaries. The impact for teachers would be phenomenal. We would finally have a way to give them feedback as well as the means to act on it. But this system would have an even more important benefit for our country. It would put us on a path to making sure all our students get a great education, find a career that's fulfilling and rewarding, and have a chance to live out their dreams. This wouldn't just make us a more successful country. It would also make us a more fair and just one, too. I'm excited about the opportunity to give all our teachers the support they want and deserve. I hope you are too. Thank you.
My story starts in Moscow. I was 15 years old. My best friend and I, we were part of a group of Westerners visiting the Soviet Union. This was in 1987, a few years before the fall of the communist regime. We were given an official tour guide who was assigned to us, and the tour would start in the morning, and we were checked into our hotel rooms for the night. My friend said to me, "Let's go outside and look at the city." I thought it was a great idea, dumb idea. So we grabbed our coats and we snuck out past security and into the street. We found the entrance to the metro. The Moscow underground transportation system is the deepest one in the world. The ride down the escalator took a full minute. Once we were down there, my friend headed right to an open train, and I pulled him back. I said, "Wait, let's write down the name of the station so we can find our way back." So I had a notepad, and I took a notepad, and I wrote down the letters of the station, and we hopped on the train and went some train hopping. And that was fun because, well, actually it was weird. There were a lot of people, they probably all coming home from work, and they were all dressed in brown and gray clothes, and it looked very, very different from what we were used to at home. But the stations were lovely. There were stations with statues, with paintings on the wall and glass displays, and it was really like museums. We would never have expected that, and everything was perfectly clean. Well, what was weird though is that the people, nobody seemed to speak, and everyone seemed to be looking at us, and it kind of weirded us out. So after about 20, 30 minutes, we had enough, and we wanted to go home. I showed my note to someone, and they directed me over there, and then over there I showed my note to another person, and they directed us to the other way. And then a third person directed us sideways. That was a little confusing. Oh, then I saw it, over the stairs, the sign. Turned out I had written down the Russian word for exit. So we headed upstairs, and we found a taxi. That was great, and told the driver, you know, in tourist hotel, and he was willing to take us. And I remember sitting next to the driver, handing him 50 rubles, and he looked at me and he said, "Нет, dollar." $50, that was like, I don't know, 20 times that amount or something. That was not an option for us, so we had to get out of the taxi, and he drove away, leaving us standing there. It was a cold night, and, you know, everything was strange for us, and we were teenagers, and we were pretty nervous, didn't know what to do. Well, we started walking. We walked to the end of the block. We turned the corner, and 200 yards in front of us, the Interest Hotel. Well, this experience affected me in two ways. The first is that anytime after this trip that I would hear anyone speak Russian, I would just cringe. And the second one is that it taught me the importance of understanding the local language when you're traveling. And it actually led to me learning another 4 languages fluently over the following years. Now, before I go on, I'd like to know in the audience, can we have a little bit of light maybe in the audience? Just like to know who's, by show of hands, who is not a native English speaker? That must be 99%. Anyone who doesn't speak English, stand up. All right, so I can assume all of you have gone through the process of learning a language. Anybody who speaks 3 or more languages? Wow, that is maybe 70%. 4 or more languages, anyone? That's still quite a bit. Anyone speak 5 or more languages? Wow, come see me during the break. All right, well, to me, learning a language for me, it's like a deck of playing cards lying face down on the table. As you start learning and understanding, the cards start opening up for you. Now, there's no standard way of classifying this, but as you learn, you reach certain milestones, and the first one would be when about 25% of the cards are turned up, you reach like a basic level. At this level, you have a base vocabulary, some grammar, and you're able to have maybe very simple conversations and communicate a little bit, and your study goes on. until you reach this magical point of fluency, what we call being fluent in a language. Now, what does this mean? Being fluent in a language, it means that you've turned up more than 50% of the cards in the deck, and that is the point where where the language becomes part of your subconscious, so that even if you don't use it anymore for 10 years or longer, you will not forget it. You can get back into it within a very, very short time. So this is a level where you're comfortable thinking in the language and comfortable communicating in the language. Now, some people go on and reach like a mastery level. By that time, you know classic literature in the other language and have maybe an in-depth knowledge of specialized fields. That's often the point taken in academia. For me, when I learned my first foreign language, I had a head start because, well, I was born to a German-speaking mother and an American father. Now, when I was a baby, I didn't really understand that what my parents were speaking to me were two separate languages. But by the time I was 2 years old, I had figured it all out. Women speak only German. Men only speak English. Imagine the fun my parents had when they introduced me to couples. Well, being a bilingual was actually pretty helpful in learning my first language. Definitely helped. But it also gave me something else. It gave me two identities and the ability to switch between them. When you're a native speaker of more than one language, then your personality, your humor, your value system, they change as you switch languages. This can have huge advantages. I mean, some studies have shown like an increased problem-solving ability or even a higher resistance to Alzheimer's disease. But what I'm most interested in is that it's actually given me a lot of social benefits. When you're a native speaker, and then you feel at home among native speakers, or in a culture, and also native speakers accept you as one of theirs. Now, is this only relevant to native speakers? And that's the big question. But wouldn't it be cool if a person learning a foreign language could actually develop another identity and actually enjoy the social benefits of a native speaker?
Order submitted.
That go beyond communication skills? Well, that's what happened to me. I was able to do that, and I want to show you from my experience how I think this can be achieved. So if we say this green area here is the level of the native speaker, the first thing to note is that on your way to reaching fluency, there is not really any shortcut. There are some methods that you can use, such as the Pareto principle, where you identify the 20% of the most effective material to study. There are some apps like for time-spaced learning that increase vocabulary retention. They save a little time, but in the end, there's no way around working with the material, practicing it until you reach the fluency level. But the second thing to note is that going from fluency to mastery is a much slower process, and it requires proportionally more effort. And that's why most people, they just stop at fluency. They know how to speak English, good enough, and they don't even attempt to venture on, and I can understand it. But the good news is to get the benefits of a native speaker at a native speaker level, you don't have to go through mastery in the academic sense. In fact, you can skip this step altogether. So if you think about it, there are many native speakers who do not have an in-depth knowledge of specialized fields or a sophisticated vocabulary, so that's not really what is required. So how do you do it? What is required? Well, I want to give you 3 areas to focus on when you're learning and interacting with native speakers. The first is work on eliminating your accent. I'm aware I said eliminating. It should be at least minimizing it. This is, in my opinion, the most overlooked aspect of language learning today, but it's also the most important one to reach what I call native speaker level or a speaker-like level. If you communicate without an accent or almost without an accent, this changes how natives behave towards you unconsciously. And it also gives you an ability to adapt a new self-image. The best way that I have found, the best exercise I have found to improve your pronunciation is what I call the perfect sentence technique. What you do is you find a native speaker to help you, and you take a book in the foreign language, you open it at a random page, and you read the first sentence. Then you ask the native speaker to rate you on obvious accent, slight accent, no accent. Then the native speaker will read this sentence back to you. You have to listen carefully, and then you repeat. And you repeat this process over and over until the native speaker tells you that he can no longer hear an accent when you read the sentence. Now, I realize it can take a very long time even just to get one sentence right. But I promise you, if you are persistent and if you patiently work on this, you will be amazed what happens to your accent. The second area to focus on is using verbs and expressions that locals use. Now, we all know the situation that vocabulary can be region-specific. Like in the US, you stand in line, in the UK, you queue. That's all good, but sometimes the spoken word is so different, the speech is so different from what you get in textbooks, that the books are almost useless if you want to converse with natives. I want to give you an example. In the French language, there are words like le travail, which is my work. A French person talking to his friend would probably say mon boulot, which is a completely different word. The same for the clothes, les vêtements, but you will hear les fringues. Or money is l'argent, but people say le fric, les sous, or many other expressions for this. So obviously, I'm only scratching the surface here, but here you actually have to learn all of these words and expressions one by one. And of course, you have to interact with natives to do that. But after you reach a critical mass that you are comfortable with, it'll actually be easier. When you encounter something new, you'll just pick it up in one go, like native speakers would who hear words or expressions they didn't know before. The third area to work on is adopting cultural traits. What do I mean by that? So let me ask you, what does this mean, this gesture mean to you? Any Italians here? Okay, now, depending on what culture you're from, this could mean something rude, or it could just mean something incredulous, like, why did you do that? Or how could you? Or it could just be signaling food, give me food. Interesting, in the Middle East, this is just a standard way of signaling, please wait. So these kind of traits you have to internalize, and sometimes they're hard to spot, and it takes a lot of active listening. I want to give you a few more examples. So imagine I'm with 3 of my friends, an American, a German, and a Frenchman. And like we're walking, and maybe the American bumps his head, and his initial reaction might be, ouch. That's how you say it in English. But the German that, gets, elbowed in the crowd, he would say, aua. And the French person, he might step on a nail and say, aïe. So this, of course, in your target language, this is something you have to observe and also internalize, and it has to become part of you. Again, I'm with these 3 friends, and I sit with them, and let's say I serve them tea, and I ask the American, would you like a biscuit with your tea? And if he answers in the affirmative, he might say, uh-huh. And I can ask the German, do you know what tea this is? And he'll say, mm-hmm. And then, and I ask the Frenchman, do you like this? And he'll say, mm. So you notice, these differences, they really require active listening. So all of these 3 things that I told you, which is pronunciation and colloquial speech and adopting these cultural traits, they all require that you interact with natives as much as possible. Ideally, you should fully immerse yourself in the culture. Now, if you have the chance to live abroad for a while, that would be great, or maybe live among natives in your hometown, perhaps just have a romantic relationship, or even just spend times with, coworkers. Romantic relationships, I could do a whole talk about that. That works really well for these things. Yeah, so this will be different for everybody, of course. But even when you're not around natives, your learning must not stop. Because what you can do, you can watch TV shows and films, you can mimic the characters, you can write down anything that you haven't heard of before, and practice that. I also want to encourage you to learn the lyrics of songs. Songs are really great because they tell stories, and they don't not only help your pronunciation when you sing them, but they also, if they're emotional, they can anchor these expressions into your active vocabulary. And it's like speaking all day and really using these expressions unconsciously. It's a great way. So music, definitely. The other thing you need to move towards native speaker status is the right mindset and a belief that if you sound like a native, express yourself like a native, talk like a native, and act like a native, you will actually achieve a native-like level. So, if I could only leave you with one thing today, it would be work on your pronunciation, because pronunciation helps any stage of the learning process, even in the very beginning. It will speed up everything, and it also is the key to reaching a native speaker level, or almost native speaker status. So before I go, I'd like to tell you how I was able to overcome my fear of the Russian language. It was a very, very elegant solution. I married a Russian girl, and I now have little kids in my home that speak Russian to me every day. So I want to thank you, and before I go, I just want to wish you mucho éxito con sus estudios de idiomas. C'est un plaisir de présenter devant vous aujourd'hui. אני מאחל לכם הרבה הצלחה עם הלימודים. הדנק וזר sich zugehört. Good luck to you all and spasiba.
Hi, everyone. 2 years ago, my life changed forever. My wife, Kelsey, and I welcomed our daughter, Leela, into the world. Now, becoming a parent is an amazing, amazing experience. Your whole world changes overnight, and all of your priorities change immediately, so fast that it makes it really difficult to process sometimes. Now, you also have to learn a tremendous amount about being a parent. Like, for example, how to dress your child. This was new to me. This is an actual outfit. I thought this was a good idea. And even Leela knows that it's not a good idea. So there was so much to learn and so much craziness all at once. And to add to the craziness, Kelsey and I both work from home. We're entrepreneurs. We run our own businesses. So Kelsey is develops courses online for yoga teachers. I'm an author. And so I'm working from home. Kelsey's working from home. We have an infant, and we're trying to make sure that everything gets done that needs done. And life is really, really, really busy. And a couple weeks into this amazing experience, when the sleep deprivation really kicked in, like around week 8, I had this thought, and it was the same thought that parents across the ages, internationally, everybody has had this thought, which is, I am never going to have free time ever again. And somebody said it's true. Yeah, it's not exactly true, but it feels really, really true. in that moment. And this was really disconcerting to me because one of the things that I enjoy more than anything else is learning new things. Getting curious about something and diving in and fiddling around and learning through trial and error and eventually becoming pretty good at something. And without this free time, I didn't know how I was ever going to do that ever again. And so I'm a big geek. I want to keep learning things. I want to keep growing. And so what I decided to do was go to the library and go to the bookstore.
Order canceled.
And look at what research says about how we learn and how we learn quickly. And I read a bunch of books, I read a bunch of websites, and trying to answer this question, how long does it take to acquire a new skill? You know what I found? 10,000 hours. Anybody ever heard this? 10,000, it takes 10,000 hours. If you want to learn something new, if you want to be good at it, it's going to take 10,000 hours to get there. And I read this in book after book and website after website, and my mental experience of reading all of this stuff was like, no! I don't have time. I don't have 10,000 hours. I am never going to be able to learn anything new ever again. But that's not true. So 10,000 hours, just to give you a rough order of magnitude, 10,000 hours is a full-time job for 5 years. That's a long time. And we've all had the experience of learning something new, and it didn't take us anywhere close to that amount of time, right? So what's up? There's something kind of funky going on here. What the research says and what we expect and have experiences, they don't match up. And what I found, here's the wrinkle. The 10,000 hour rule came out of studies of expert level performance. There was a professor at Florida State University. His name is K. Anders Ericsson. He's the originator of the 10,000 hour rule. And where that came from is he studied professional athletes, world-class musicians, chess grandmasters, all of these ultra-competitive folks in ultra-high-performing fields, and he tried to figure out how long does it take to get to the top of those kinds of fields. And what he found is the more deliberate practice, the more time that those individuals spent practicing the elements of whatever it is that they do, the more time you spend, the better you get. And the folks at the tippy top of their fields put in around 10,000 hours of practice. Now, we were talking about the game of telephone a little bit earlier. Here's what happened. An author by the name of Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book in 2007 called Outliers, the Story of Success. And the centerpiece of that book was the 10,000 hour rule. Practice a lot, practice well, and you will do extremely well. You'll reach the top of your field. So the message, what Dr. Ericsson was actually saying is, it takes 10,000 hours to get to the top of an ultra-competitive field in a very narrow subject. That's what that means. But here's what happened. Ever since Outliers came out, immediately came out, reached the top of the bestseller list, stayed there for 3 solid months. All of a sudden, the 10,000 hour rule was everywhere. And a society-wide game of telephone started to be played. So this message, it takes 10,000 hours to reach the top of an ultra-competitive field, became, it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. Which became, it takes 10,000 hours to become good at something. Which became, it takes 10,000 hours to learn something. But that last statement, it takes 10,000 hours to learn something, it's not true. It's not true. So, what the research actually says, if I spent a lot of time here at the CSU library in the cognitive psychology stacks, because I'm a geek. And when you actually look at the studies of skill acquisition, you see over and over and over a graph like this. Now, researchers, whether they're studying a motor skill, something you do physically, or a mental skill, they like to study things that they can time, because you can quantify that, right? So they'll give research participants a little task, something that requires physical arrangement or something that requires learning a little mental trick. and they'll time how long a participant takes to complete the skill. And here's what this graph says. When you start, so when researchers gave participants a task, it took them a really long time because it was new and they were horrible. With a little bit of practice, they get better and better and better, and that early part of practice is really, really efficient. People get good at things with just a little bit of practice. Now, what's interesting to note is that if, we don't really, for skills that we want to learn for ourselves, we don't care so much about time, right? We just care about how good we are, whatever good happens to mean. So if we relabel performance time to how good you are, the graph flips, and you get this famous and widely known, this is the learning curve. And the story of the learning curve is when you start, you're grossly incompetent and you know
Order canceled.
it, right? With a little bit of practice, you get really good really quick. So that early level of improvement is really fast. And then at a certain point, you reach a plateau, and the subsequent gains become much harder to get. They take more time to get. Now, my question is, I want that, right? How long does it take from starting something and being grossly incompetent and knowing it to being reasonably good in, hopefully, as short a period of time as possible? So, how long does that take? Here's what my research says. 20 hours. That's it. You can go from knowing nothing about any skill that you can think of. Want to learn a language? Want to learn how to draw? Want to learn how to juggle flaming chainsaws? If you put 20 hours of focused, deliberate practice into that thing, you will be astounded at how good you are. 20 hours is doable. That's about 45 minutes a day for about a month, even skipping a couple days here and there. 20 hours isn't that hard to accumulate. Now, there's a method to doing this, because it's not like you can just start fiddling around for about 20 hours and expect these massive improvements. There's a way to practice intelligently. There's a way to practice efficiently that will make sure that you invest those 20 hours in the most effective way that you possibly can. And here's the method. It applies to anything. The first is to deconstruct the skill. Decide exactly what you want to be able to do when you're done, and then look into the skill and break it down into smaller and smaller pieces. Most of the things that we think of as skills are actually big bundles of skills that require all sorts of different things. The more you can break apart the skill, the more you're able to decide what are the parts of this skill that will actually help me get to what I want, and then you can practice those first. And if you practice the most important things first, you'll be able to improve your performance in the least amount of time possible. The second is learn enough to self-correct. So get 3 to 5 resources about what it is you're trying to learn. Could be books, could be DVDs, could be courses, could be anything. But don't use those as a way to procrastinate on practice. I know I do this, right? Get like 20 books about the topic. It's like, I'm gonna start learning how to program a computer when I complete these 20 books. No, that's procrastination. What you want to do is learn just enough that you can actually practice and self-correct or self-edit as you practice. So the learning becomes a way of getting better at noticing when you're making a mistake and then doing something a little different. The third is to remove barriers to practice. Distractions, television, internet, all of these things that get in the way of you actually sitting down and doing the work. And the more you're able to use just a little bit of willpower to remove the distractions that are keeping you from practicing, the more likely you are to actually sit down and practice, right? And the fourth is to practice for at least 20 hours. Now, most skills have what I call a frustration barrier. You know, the grossly incompetent knowing it part. That's really, really frustrating. We don't like to feel stupid. And feeling stupid is a barrier to us actually sitting down and doing the work. So by pre-committing to practicing whatever it is that you want to do for at least 20 hours, you will be able to overcome that initial frustration barrier and stick with the practice long enough to actually reap the rewards. All right, that's it. It's not rocket science. 4 very simple steps that you can use to learn anything. Now, this is easy to talk about in theory, but it's more fun to talk about in practice. So one of the things that I've wanted to learn how to do for a long time is play the ukulele. Has anybody seen Jake Shimabukuro's TED Talk where he plays the ukulele and makes it sound like he's like an ukulele god? It's amazing. It's like, I saw that, it's like, that is so cool. It's such a neat instrument. I would really like to learn how to play. And so I decided that to test this theory, I wanted to put 20 hours into practicing the ukulele and see where we got. And so the first thing about playing the ukulele is in order to practice, you have to have one, right? So I got an ukulele, and my lovely assistant, thank you, sir. I think I need the cord here. It's not just an ukulele, it's an electric ukulele. Yeah. So the first couple hours are just like the first couple hours of anything. You have to get the tools that you're using to practice. You have to make sure that they're available. My ukulele didn't come with strings attached. I had to figure out how to put those on. Like, that's kind of important, right? And learning how to tune and learning how to make sure that all of the things that need to be done in order to start practicing get done, right? Now, one of the things when I was ready to actually start practicing was I looked in online databases and songbooks for how to play songs. And they say, okay, ukuleles, you can play more than one string at a time, so you can play chords. That's cool. You're accompanying yourself. Yay, you. And when I started looking at songs, I had an ukulele chord book that had like hundreds of chords. I was like looking at this thing, like, whoa, that's intimidating. But when you look at the actual songs, you see the same chords over and over, right? As it turns out, playing the ukulele is kind of like doing anything. There's a very small set of things that are really important and techniques that you'll use all the time. And so in most songs, you'll use 4, maybe 5 chords, and that's it. That's the song. You don't have to know the hundreds as long as you know the 4 or the 5. So while I was doing my research, I found a wonderful little medley of pop songs by a band called Axis of Awesome. And somebody knows it. And what Axis of Awesome says is that you can learn, or you can play pretty much any pop song of the past 5 decades if you know 4 chords. And those chords are G, D, E minor, C. 4 chords, pump out every pop song ever, right? So I thought, this is cool. I would like to play every pop song ever. So that was the first song I decided to learn. And I would like to actually share it with you. Ready? All right. Just a small town girl living in a lonely world. She took the midnight train going anywhere. I heard that you settled down, that you found a girl, that you're married now. Every night in my dreams I see you, I feel you. That is how I know we'll go on. I won't hesitate no more. It cannot wait, I'm yours. 'Cause you are amazing. We did amazing things. If I could, then I would. I'd go wherever you will. And can you feel the love tonight? Can live with or without you? When I find myself Find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. Sometimes I feel like I don't have a partner. No woman, no cry, mama, this surely is a dream. I come from London under. Once a jolly swag man camped by a billabong. Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me. Hey, sexy lady, whoop, 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 whoop 'em Gangnam Style. Time to say goodbye. Closing time. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end.
Order filled.
Thank you. Thank you. I love that song. And I have a secret to share with you. So by playing that song for you, I just hit my 20th hour of practicing the ukulele. Thank you. And so it's amazing, pretty much anything that you can think of. What do you want to do? The major barrier to learning something new is not intellectual. It's not the process of you learning a bunch of little tips or tricks or things. The major barrier is emotional. We're scared. Feeling stupid doesn't feel good. In the beginning of learning anything new, you feel really stupid. So the major barrier is not intellectual, it's emotional. But put 20 hours into anything. Doesn't matter. What do you want to learn? You want to learn language? You want to learn how to cook? You want to learn how to draw? What turns you on? What lights you up? Go out and do that thing. It only takes 20 hours. Have fun.
Great job.
People at the back, can you hear me clearly? Okay, good. Have you ever held a question in mind for so long that it becomes part of how you think? Maybe even part of who you are as a person? Well, I've had a question in my mind for many, many years, and that is, how can you speed up learning? Now, this is an interesting question because if you speed up learning, you can spend less time at school. And if you learn really fast, you probably wouldn't have to go to school at all. Now, when I was young, school was sort of okay, but I found quite often that school got in the way of learning. So I had this question in mind: how do you learn faster? And this began when I was very, very young. When I was 11 years old, I wrote a letter to researchers in the Soviet Union asking about hypnopedia. This is sleep learning, where you get a tape recorder, you put it beside your bed, and it turns on in the middle of the night when you're sleeping, and you're supposed to be learning from this. Good idea. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. But hypnopedia did open the doors to research in other areas, and we've had incredible discoveries about learning that began with that first question. I went on from there to become passionate about psychology, and I have been involved in psychology in many different ways for the rest of my life up until this point. In 1981, I took myself to China, and I decided that I was going to be native level in Chinese inside 2 years. Now, you need to understand that in 1981, everybody thought Chinese was really, really difficult and that a Westerner could study for 10 years or more and never really get very good at it. And I also went in with a different idea, which was taking all of the conclusions from psychological research up to that point and applying them to the learning process. What was really cool was that in 6 months I was fluent in Mandarin Chinese, and it took a little bit longer to get up to native. But I looked around and I saw all of these people from different countries struggling terribly with Chinese. I saw Chinese people struggling terribly to learn English and other languages. And so my question got refined down to how can you help a normal adult learn a new language quickly, easily, and effectively? Now, this is a really, really important question in today's world. We have massive challenges with environment. We have massive challenges with social dislocation, with wars, all sorts of things going on. And if we can't communicate, we're really going to have difficulty solving these problems. So we need to be able to speak each other's languages. This is really, really important. The question is, how do you do that? Well, it's actually really easy. You look around for people who can already do it. You look for situations where it's already working, and then you identify the principles and apply them. It's called modeling, and I've been looking at language learning and modeling language learning for about 15 to 20 years now. And my conclusion, my observation from this is that any adult can learn a second language to fluency inside 6 months. Now, when I say this, most people think I'm crazy. This is not possible. So let me remind everybody of the history of human progress. It's all about expanding our limits. In 1950, everybody believed that running 1 mile in 4 minutes was impossible. And then Roger Bannister did it in 1956, and from there it's got shorter and shorter. 100 years ago, everybody believed that heavy stuff doesn't fly, except it does, and we all know this. How does heavy stuff fly? We reorganize the material using principles that we have learned from observing nature, birds in this case. And today, we've gone even further. So you can fly a car. You can buy one of these for a couple of $100,000 US. We now have cars in the world that fly. And there's a different way to fly, which we learned from squirrels. So all you need to do is copy what a flying squirrel does, build a suit called a wingsuit, and off you go. You can fly like a squirrel. Now, most people, a lot of people, I wouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people think they can't draw. However, there are some key principles, 5 principles that you can apply to learning to draw, and you can actually learn to draw in 5 days. So if you draw like this, you learn these principles for 5 days and apply them, and after 5 days, you can draw something like this. Now, I know this is true because that was my first drawing, and after 5 days of applying these principles, that was what I was able to do. And I looked at this and I went, wow. So that's how I look like when I'm concentrating so intensely that my brain is exploding. So anybody can learn to draw in 5 days. And in the same way, with the same logic, anybody can learn a second language in 6 months. How? There are 5 principles and 7 actions. There may be a few more, but these are absolutely core. And before I get into those, I just want to talk about 2 myths. I want to dispel 2 myths. The first is that you need talent. Let me tell you about Zoe. Zoe came from Australia, went to Holland, was trying to learn Dutch, struggling extremely a great deal, and finally, people were saying you're completely useless, you're not talented, give up, you're a waste of time, and she was very, very depressed. And then she came across these 5 principles. She moved to Brazil, and she applied them, and in 6 months, she was fluent in Portuguese. So talent doesn't matter. People also think that immersion in a new country is the way to learn a language. But look around Hong Kong. Look at all the Westerners who've been here for 10 years who don't speak a word of Chinese. Look at all the Chinese living in America, Britain, Australia, Canada, who've been there 10, 20 years, and they don't speak any English. Immersion per se does not work. Why? Because a drowning man cannot learn to swim. When you don't speak a language, you're like a baby, and if you drop yourself into a context which is all adults talking about stuff over your head, you won't learn. So, what are the 5 principles that you need to pay attention to? First, there are 4 words. Attention, meaning, relevance, and memory. And these interconnect in very, very important ways, especially when you're talking about learning. Come with me on a journey through a forest. You go on a walk through a forest and you see something like this. little marks on a tree. Maybe you pay attention, maybe you don't. You go another 50 meters and you see this. You should be paying attention. Another 50 meters, if you haven't been paying attention, you see this. And at this point, you're paying attention. And you've just learned that this is important, it's relevant, because it means this, and anything that is related, any information related to your survival is stuff that you're going to pay attention to, and therefore you're going to remember it. If it's related to your own personal